Hey, so I did quite a lot of training the past few days, and my body feels quite tired, exhausted. Yesterday I did some bouldering, as you might be able to tell from my fingers. And yeah, I just feel pretty tired, but I also want to move my body a bit. I'd like to train today, but my body says, maybe not so intensively as the other few days. So what to do? Well, these days I always like to just communicate a bit with my body, being in a sort of dialogue, not having a certain like I want to train this today, or I want to do ring pull-ups today, or I want to do this today, or I want to achieve that today. So going into this session, this is my mindset. My mindset is entering a conversation with my body, trying to feel how does my body want to move, just slowly leveling up the intensity, and maybe there's some point where my body says no, this not doesn't feel good. Well, in this case I go down a bit, or I find something else. And in this process you get to know your body, the limits, the boundaries, the how it wants to express itself, how it wants to move. So I thought I'd just bring you along with me on this session. It's going to be a really chill session. Going to start really slowly, and then we're just leveling up. Maybe do a bit of muscle work as well. Don't know. Let's see. So without further ado, let's get into it. So how does my body want to move today? Let's figure it out. Let's just start with some resting postures. It's wobbling a bit. Let's see how this feels. I can feel my knees are quite tensed. So I think I want to get into that a little. Rotating the pelvis. Yeah, I can definitely tell my knees are most tense at the moment. Oof. Also the underarms, I can really feel them quite tense. Let's make some circles there. Yeah. Definitely the underarms, forearms. Still feel my left wrist quite a bit injured. Let's see, folding in this way. How does this feel? Hips feel okay. Knees, most. Spine a bit involved. Feels okay. There, a little bit. Let's sit a bit on the toes. That feels good. Stretching the toes a little bit. Getting into some hamstrings, back flexibility in all dimensions. Opening up the hip. Flex the toes, yeah. Low back. Pushing the pelvis forward. Ribs back. Ribs back. Shake work. Active relaxation. Some rotation in, some different positional relationships of the joints. So like I said, I'm not planning this in my head. I just kind of facilitate what my body wants to do. So right now, yeah, I feel my neck is definitely quite tight at the moment. Rest of the spine feels good. There a little bit, there. This brings more of the outer part of the neck getting dynamically stretched. If you want it more deeper, you can focus on keeping your eyes level, and this way you can feel more like around the throat. This way you can really feel like your whole spine being lengthened. Lubricating the inside of the hip. But the nice thing about a Swiss ball is that it really activates the inner thighs to stabilize, to keep the knees at place. And while doing this, you have to kind of balance as well. Like, keep having to put yourself in balance in a dynamic one arm, one leg. Not easy. There. So when you're done with that part, start adding a foot and the other one like that. I always like to stay inside this squat posture. Yes, and so when this goes well, you can start to try to lift up. And you will see, once you start activating the muscles, it will get really shaky. Almost uncontrollable. And when you use momentum, things are quite easy sometimes, because you can skip a lot of these muscle fibers that are used in the transition between one pose to another. So let's try to see it when I skip all these muscle fibers and just shoot straight up. It will look like this. So I'm in a resting squat, not using a lot of the big muscles. Try to shoot up in one go, like this. See? It's much easier actually. Even though it looks maybe more spectacular, it is much easier. So when I only lift up a little bit, try to go slowly, you can see already the shaking is less. Now this is a perfect example of how balance is trained. Because the first time you will shake a lot, and then after a while your neurological system kind of adapts. It can adapt really quickly. Now you can see the shaking starts again. Going to resting. Yeah. So I think for now that's enough. I can really feel the outside of my foot muscles really activated. So my body feels nice and warm now, especially the legs after the Swiss ball session. Like I said, I wanted to get into a bit of some muscle work, but I don't want to focus on necessarily the intensity or the amount of reps or going to failure. I don't want to focus on any of these. Like I said, I want to be in a dialogue with my body at the moment. So my approach to this is going really slow, very slow movements, trying to really get the information of the movement instead of going out of communication and just being dominant over my body. Now, it's not that I don't appreciate this, because I do this as well. And it's nice to have this control over your body, just pushing out some reps, feeling good afterwards, feeling tired afterwards is good. But there's also a place for slow, because when you do slow movements, you can get a lot more information, and in this way get a lot of feedback from your body. How does this go? Left, right? Is it the same, or is there differences in how I position, how it feels, how the tension feels? Also, when initiating a movement, like I already mentioned, not using momentum to skip over some muscle fibers, but to be slow and controlled, so that in every position you need to have the certain muscle fiber contraction instead of one big push and then kind of skipping this whole part. No, we want to really go slow and also use this part of the muscle fiber. So here to here, for example, push up. This will tell you a lot about your body, and it's really valuable to do this in the days where you don't feel you have too much energy, because you can use these kind of things and really feel like if it's too much for your body, you just go down, because it doesn't really matter. Like, this is your rest day. You don't have to push yourself. So with that being said, let's start with some muscle training and really take it slow and easy. I think I'll focus more on my upper body, and let's see how it goes. Maybe I'll try my rings. I haven't used my rings in a long time, so I'm quite excited to use these. These are perfect actually for using slow and controlled movements, because they really need you to stabilize the whole movement. So let's do it. Starting just with some normal push-ups and then going into some variations. Slowly down. Right now I'm resting on the floor, and slowly up. Slowly down. Slowly up. So from that I could tell my left arm is a bit more tired. Maybe that's also why the joint cracked right there in my elbow, or popped, however you want to call it. Could also be some other way. I feel my left shoulder is always a bit more unstable, so maybe that has to do with using more muscle fibers in the stability work, therefore adding more pressure to the bone, to the joint. Could be, I don't know. So let's use some variations. Try to switch up sides, left side, right side, going more into incline, decline. Just have some fun with it. So that was actually a nice example of feeling a limit or a barrier. You could probably see in my face, I was trying really hard to be able to do this movement. And I could feel my presence slipping away in this movement. Now, is this necessarily bad? No. But like I said, my intention of this session is to be present and don't exert my body too much. Now, I felt with this movement, I turn my body mostly outwards, so the positional relationship changes a lot to my right shoulder, and I really had to push a lot there in a really stretched position. Now this was a bit too much, and I started compensating. I think it was in my knee, but I think it was in my knee. I started to flex my knee to ease the position there to be able to perform this motion. So that was a good example of being in communication and feeling where the barriers are, where the limitations are. Now, normally I would be like, fuck this, I will just get out of this, and then, yeah, fuck yeah, I did it. Feels good, feel pumped. But in this situation, in this context, this is not the objective of the exercise. So, good example of feeling a barrier. So because I have some blisters on my fingers, I won't be doing much pull work, but I do want to focus a little bit on my shoulder blades. So I will do some, but not much. Like I said, I don't want to worsen my blisters right now. These need to heal. So show you a little bit of my shoulder blade work. Just starting with a passive hang. Feeling the whole spine being elongated. A little bit of active hang. Like I said, my left shoulder really a lot more unstable than my right one. Onto passive. Onto active. Passive. Active. Using the lets. Back down. Active. Let. To pull up. Passive. Let. Pull up. No, active. Support. Hold. Wow, I haven't done this in a really long time. Let's keep this a bit static for now. Aging. Yeah, I can feel my left wrist from the injury. Okay, let's get down. So you can see the shakes going on. This is your body trying to keep stable. So this is also a very neurological exercise actually. So now I will do a dip. Like I mentioned, I haven't done this in a really long time, so excuse my form. I'll do a dip and then go back up in a controlled fashion. Huh. Actually went quite good. I was expecting a bit more shakes, to be honest. So it's also a good example of being in communication with your body, like feeling barriers, feeling limits, but also feeling opportunities, potential. So so that was the session for me. With this kind of training, you don't need much of a cool down because you're already like really cool, chill while doing these exercises. Like, I feel a nice pump in my upper body, especially a nice pump, not exaggerated. I probably won't get any muscle aches from this tomorrow or 2 days later. It's just really chill, finding some clues in your body, getting some work in, some stimuli for adaptation, because remember, we are morphing beings. We either morph or we die. And there's really not much choice in between. I keep saying this because it's true. So instead of brainlessly morphing our body, let's just try to morph well. Let's try to look at what we want and morph our body in this fashion. Stay creative and catch you in the next one. Thanks for joining me.